Hello friends, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how I made this Emily themed cake from the Corpse Bride movie, so let's just get right into it. I made this hilarious template from an image I will use below in paper and thin cardboard form, and I'm cutting that out of a layer of blue cake because we're fancy today. And then I'm covering that in a thin layer of Swiss meringue buttercream. I cut myself another layer of cake just of the torso and the head, and then I'm lining that up using my template as a guide. So now I'm going to do some sculpting. I'm just shaping the neck a little bit and then rounding out all of the harsh edges. I marked out where the chest is going to sit, and then using a mixture of my cutoffs and some buttercream, I made this cake pop dough, and I'm going to start just shaping the chest, if you know what I mean. I cut in the eye on either side, and then just hollowed that out a little bit with my knife. Once I was done carving, I covered the whole thing in a layer of buttercream and just tried to get it as smooth as possible, and then stuck that in the fridge to chill. I'm covering my board in fondant now because I always wait until the last step and end up hating my life trying to get it on there and moving around all the decorations, so I'm just getting it out of the way. I'm using some light blue modeling chocolate to cover the neck and the face, and I'm just using my fingers to smooth that down, and then I'm trimming away the excess with my X-Acto knife. Her chin point wasn't really doing it for me, so I added an extra little piece and just blended that in, and then using my balling tool, I'm defining those eye sockets. I'm building out her face on either side just by blending in a couple pieces, and then marking in her really deep set cheekbones. I made my way through the rest of the features, just adding pieces and blending them down as I went. Before I can do anything else to her body, I have to add the veil, so I'm just adding these two pieces on either side, tucking them as close as I can to the body, and then using my fingers and my modeling tools, just making it look a little bit more like fabric. It's really tattery, so I'm going along the edges and just tearing off little pieces. I'm carving out a chunk in her torso for where the ribs are going to be because she did, and then I'm filling that space in with some black fondant. I covered her chest in more of that light blue modeling chocolate, just smoothing it down on the sides and then trimming it underneath the boobage area. She has a super pronounced clavicle, so I'm adding two pieces on either side, just bringing those up high enough that they cover the seam between the neck and the chest. She's got ribs sticking out, so I added 3 little strips of ivory fondant. For the fabric of her dress, I have some white fondant that I added just a scotch of ivory to, and you can see I've embossed it. I had a mat. I'm going to link the one that I used down below. I trimmed that down and then very carefully just cut around where my ribs are. Using my fingers, I just pulled at the fondant gently to fray the top and around that space there. Moving on to her arms, I'm adding blue on one side and then more of that ivory fondant for a bone-like shape on the other side. It's definitely not accurate, but I did my best. I grabbed a mix of blue and black color dust and I'm just shading around the eye socket. And then I used my template to break down the shape of the eye and just added each piece as it went along. When I was happy with her features, I took more of that blue and black and just brushed underneath where her cheekbones are, in her nostrils, and then around all the little shadows in her face. I wanted to grunge up the veil, so I went over the whole thing, just going over all of the bumps and the edges to really highlight the texture. For her hair, I'm using some dark blue fondant. I laid down a couple flat-ish pieces first and just kind of curled them around, and then I'm layering some sneakies of that blue that I'm coiling down. I added more hair on the crown of her head and then just texturized everything with my fondant tool. To paint her lips, I'm using some white that I mixed with a little bit of pink and purple, and I'm just brushing that on there and then adding some darker pink around the edge, just so it's not one flat color. I need to shade the rest of her body, so I'm just going in with my bluey black mixture and getting into all of the nooks and crannies, shading over the dress, and especially concentrating that on the very top there. To paint the board, I'm using some blue mixed with some food grade alcohol, and I'm just working the color like a light wash first and then building it up darker around the edges. Once I have the color laid down, I'm stippling that to blend everything together so I have a nice gradient. She has some like squigglies on her veil, so I'm just marking that in with a fine tip paintbrush and some black food coloring. To finish off the dress, I added some little balls of white fondant and then dotted on some white food coloring gel as well. I used a cutter I had to punch out a bunch of these black flowers, and I'm just kind of smushing them together and adding them to the top of her head for her crown of like dead things. And this was the final result, guys. I'm really pleased with how this cake turned out. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.